This project is part of the Tran-SET UTC done by LTRC and LSU. I work with Samira, who is a graduate assistant. I will be introducing her soon. She will be the one presenting. And then Seth Leonard, he was also an undergrad assistant. He worked with us. The problem statement from this came from DOTD, and it was to do with investigating incentive programs that other states as well as DOTD should use in encouraging closure of grade crossings. I'm going to introduce Samira. She is a graduate assistant who is pursuing a doctorate degree in geographic information science from LSU. She has experience in spatial analysis, crash severity models, highway rail grade crossing issues, which is why she worked on this, machine learning, and data analytics in transportation applications. So even though she's in the GIS section, she has a lot of applications in the transportation industry. She was quite instrumental in this program. I'm going to let Samira take over and she's going to do the presentation.
Hi, my name is Samira. Welcome to my presentation. Today I'm going to talk about research I've done with LTRC last year. In the next slides, you will learn more about existing incentive programs for closure of grade crossings in each state. Also, you will learn more about the effectiveness and popularity of the existing incentive programs. As a quick background, there are significant amounts of grade crossings which result in a massive financial burden due to delays in services and damage to trains, tracks, and other equipment. For example, in 2018, there were more than 380,000 grade crossings across the U.S. More than half of them are public grade crossings. Statistics shows that about 95% of all train vehicle incidents occur exactly at the highway grade crossings. And also 94% of train vehicle collisions is due to drivers' behavior. That's a lot. In 2017, there were more than 2,000 collisions between train and vehicles, resulted in more than 800 injuries and about 274 fatalities. And approximately 68% of all fatalities occurred in 15 states. Louisiana is among these top 15 states with the highest number of reported highway grade crossing incidents. So, incidents at railroad crossings are a major concern in the U.S. To reduce the number of such incidents, the Federal Railroad Administration, FRA, requires safety challenged states to improve the safety of grade crossings. One solution is to close redundant or unneeded crossings, but crossing owners usually are opposed to this solution. So we need to offer reasonable incentive programs to encourage crossing owners to allow crossing closures. Consequently, this study seeks to identify and evaluate current incentive programs. As mentioned before, Louisiana is one of the highway rail crossing safety challenge states. So Louisiana has mandated by FRA to develop state action plans. Possible solutions to improve safety of railroads are grade separation, which aims to separate railway and roadways, and also active alarms, which seeks to change passive alarms to active ones, and also in-vehicle alarms that aims to embed railroad alarms into vehicles. Actually, it works for drivers who would be distracted by headphones, for example. And also other solution is visibility improvement at crossings, and finally grade crossing closures and grade crossing consolidation. These two solutions actually aim to close unneeded crossings. I mean, both grade crossing closure and grade crossing consolidation. However, people are opposed to the last two approaches. I mean, closing crossing, closing crossings, and also crossing consolidation, because they think that they are losing something. They're losing some property or advantage or something. So several incentive programs are currently used by states to gain crossing owners' agreement for closure. For example, cash incentive. Cash incentives offers direct cash to compensate side effects of closures. The other one is track relocation, which offers relocating of track to a less dense area in a city, for example. And also road improvement approach or incentive program, such as, for example, road widening by adding extra lane or also surface improvement. The other one is nearby crossing improvement, which seeks to make any improvements with alarms or crossing safe surface. The other one is nearby crossing grade separation, which offers to build overpass or underpass in a nearby crossing. The other one and the last one actually is quiet zone establishment, and that offers improvement to quality of life in a neighborhood of that crossings by reducing the train horn. So, the motivation of this study was to improve the safety of highway grade crossing in Louisiana. Since the safest grade crossings is one that does not exist at all from the first place, so this study seeks to identify and evaluate incentive programs already being used to encourage consolidation of redundant or unneeded grade crossings. To achieve this objective, the study relied on surveys administered nationwide to state DOTs and railroad agencies to obtain such information. We did a literature review to get a bigger picture about how good the consolidation program worked so far. Actually, we use DOT and railroad websites to directly get to know the existing consolidation and closure programs. In addition, we identified and contacted with the key railroad safety personnel in each state. Based on the obtained information, we then developed a survey. Within the survey, experts were expected to select any incentive program or programs they use in their states or agencies. They could then rate the effectiveness of each program that they selected and point out the main weaknesses within the program they have. The survey questions are, for example, does your state or agency offer or administer any incentive program for closure of grade crossings? Which type of incentive program does your state or agency offer? And also, how long has your program been in effect? And how effective is your incentive program in achieving your goal of railroad closure or consolidation? And in your view, what are the reasons for not having a very effective program? We asked this question from the survey. In the survey, the survey was distributed to 52 verified DOT personnel and also 240 railroad agency personnel. Altogether, we got back 60 responses from 39 states, where either state DOTs or a railroad agency responded the survey batch. We did not receive any responses from 11 states, including California, Connecticut, Rhode Island, Pennsylvania, Arizona, Nevada, Iowa, Missouri, New Hampshire, and also Maryland and Vermont. However, we know that California had a lot of trouble with railroad crossings, but we did not receive any response back from these states. However, we contacted them many times. Okay, for the findings, we found that from among 39 states which responded us back, 22 of them have no incentive program to offer for closure of grade crossing. You can see these states in red. Yeah, so 17 states have incentive programs, either incentive that we will cover in next slide. From among 17 states which have incentive programs, 15 of them offer cash incentives. Actually, cash incentive provides cash to aid highway red grade crossing projects which are provided either by state authorities or Federal Highway Administration (FHWA). The most successful and non-incentive program offered by FHWA is Section 130, which is created by Congress in 1987. The minimum amount of Section 130 incentive program is 7.5K, which is typically not enough to offset the consolidations of a crossing. In addition to funds from FHWA, several railroad agencies such as BNSF, Railway, and CSX Transportation generally have also funds offered to public and private crossing to assess crossing closures and rerouting of vehicular traffic to another open crossing. We found out that 7 out of 17 states mentioned having nearby road improvement programs such as road surface improvement, changing passive alarms to active alarms, and building bigger roads or increasing capacity at affected or identified highway rail crossings. In addition to FHWA, again, railroad agencies such as BNSF have incentive funds available to public-private landowners to assist with funding of road improvements and nearby crossing improvements. 6 out of 17 states have nearby crossing grade separation program. Nearby crossing grade separation program is the process of construction, reconstruction, or repair of bridges carrying a local road or street over or under railroad tracks. Building overpass or subways. However, grade separation is one of the best programs regarding improving residents' quality of life. It is less practicable because of its high cost, actually. Railroads generally pay no more than 5% of the cost, so the local highway authority is the one hook for the majority. Another improvement-based program is nearby crossing improvement. About 12 states out of 17 states have this program administered. Nearby crossing improvements such as working with alarms and improving surface of the crossing. And finally, 4 states have track relocation program for crossing safety improvements. North Carolina, Kansas, Michigan, and Ohio. North Carolina actually is the pioneer of this incentive program. This program consists of a rail line being displaced to another location far from dense urban places. Track relocation usually results in many highway rail grade crossing closures. It increases access to streets, resulting in improved safety and higher community quality of life. But the main disadvantage of this method is the limitation of economic development of this program. Okay, for the findings, it can be seen that the cash incentive program was the most popular incentive program. According to the response, out of 17 states that asserted that they have incentive program, We found out that 15 states have cash incentive programs, 7 states have road improvement programs, and 6 states have nearby crossing grade separation programs. 12 states have nearby crossing improvement program, and also 4 states have track relocation programs. The improvement-based programs such as nearby crossing improvement and road improvement were not quite as popular according to this graph you can see here. The nearby crossing grade separation and the track relocation programs were the least popular incentive programs. Okay, why? The reason why track relocation is the least popular program among others is that it is rarely offered due to the cost involved and also difficulties to gain agreement between railroad agencies. Also, it's so difficult for them to design a new route for railways. In the other hand, direct cash incentive is readily available grant that the states tend to use as their first choice when it comes to conservation programs. So that's why cash incentive program is the popular incentive program among the other options. Okay, according to the responses we got, we've noticed that track relocation was the most effective program, followed by road improvement, nearby crossing separation, nearby crossing improvement, and cash incentive. The cash incentive program has not been very effective for 2 main reasons. First, the cash incentives tend to be relatively small. It's just 7.5K on average for each crossing, which is nothing, actually, according to the survey. Second, the officials in charge of the closure are generally elected. There is not political will to close them, even over the objections of a few residents. However, for track relocation has important benefits. For example, it reduces traffic delay, it improves environmental quality resulting from decreased noise and air pollution, and also it improves in the railroad operational efficiency and eliminates obstructions to emergency vehicles, which in some area may outweigh its costs and difficulties of design a new road. So in some area, it's better for them to just relocate the track. However, it's kind of costly for them. In addition to the incentive program we found in our online research, within the survey, we found out that Utah used to close 2 crossings when they received a request for opening a new crossing. In Ohio, they really support for quiet zone establishment, so it caused them to get rid of some redundant and unneeded crossings in some area. And in Illinois, they consider alternative routes to offset the removal of grade crossing by designing some alternative routes. They encourage people to agree with the closure of specific crossings. We utilize another quantitative measure to assess the effectiveness of track relocation and cash incentive programs, since these 2 programs showed up as the most highly and least effective program, respectively. This figure shows the percentage of closed crossings for each state as at January 2018, using information from FRA. You can see Louisiana. Actually, this state did well in closing the redundant grade crossings. More than 45.9% of all grade crossings in Louisiana were now closed. Further, based on the state's response, Each state was grouped into either having no incentive programs or none, having cash incentive only, having cash incentive with other forms of incentive programs, but not including track location, and lastly, having track relocation with other forms of incentives, but not including cash incentives here. The results show that states without any incentive program had the least proportion of grade crossing, railroad grade closures, in line with the survey findings. Track relocation combined with other incentive programs, but without cash incentives, seemed to be most effective one, about 42.6%, while the cash incentive, in addition to other incentives, but without track relocation, produced just 40.6% of crossing closures. What this confirms? This confirms that when compared to states offering no incentive program and cash incentive only, track relocation appeared to be a more effective incentive program for great railroad crossing closures. In the conclusion, we found out that grade crossing consolidation or closure has some pros and cons. As the pros, it reduces the maintenance cost. However, it improves the safety of crossings in a crossings neighborhood. But when it comes to cons, we can say that it's so hard to gain agreement of residents to allow any closure in the area, and also in some area, a closure of a crossing may reduce the accessibility of a series and different facilities together. So the cash incentive program is least effective while the most popular program, and the track relocation program is most effective but rarely utilized one. So based on the findings of this study, it is recommended that all states adopt some form of incentive program. For states to decide which form of incentive program will be the most appropriate one, there is a need for them to undertake some benefit cost analysis for all available options. Actually, it depends on states' priorities. For example, a track relocation program that is able to close 20 crossings for an approximate cost of 20 million may be deemed more effective and appropriate than paying a cash incentive of only 30,000 to close a single crossing or vice versa. As a future work, we are working to design a comprehensive consolidation model which will consider various railroad crossing characteristics to prioritize which crossing needs to be closed or consolidated. This model will allow the research community to go one step further towards predicting the future conditions that the closed crossing will trigger on its neighborhood. Such a model can predict the priority rating of each crossing for any safety improvement or consolidation in future. So thank you for your attention. If there is any question, I would be happy to answer them. Me and Dr. Codjoe.
We are working on a consolidation model, which is currently ongoing. That's not part of the study, but it's something that we took an interest to based on the survey results that we got. Even though it's not part of this, we'll be happy to share the results with you.
I would want to ask a question now, if that's okay.
Okay, go on.
And I apologize if I didn't understand this clearly. It sounds like there was a pretty large wave of closing of the grade crossings already. It was 45.9% of the crossings were closed and they were considered redundant. Was that because that we were forced to do that? Was that also some strategies involved in that? And then also, I'm assuming there's some criteria in what they considered redundant. Is this something that could be used in your model?
Yeah, that's a very good question that you actually raised because to be honest with you, it's not when you close, well, when a decision is made to close a crossing, there are many factors to deal with it. Now, for all of those, which says for all the closed ones that we found in the RIMS database, which is what we used, we could not find a reason for closure because there could be other factors, not just being redundant. It could be sometimes it could be just the fact that they are not able to maintain it. There could be other factors that we don't even know, but unfortunately, those are not even recorded in the RIMS. It doesn't show you the reasons why it's closed. It doesn't show you if it's because they reckon another crossing close by could do the job, or if there's a safety issue there. It doesn't tell you anything. So when we did this, we just what year did we take? We took when we did our reference, we took a year, a specific year, and then we decided, you know what, we're gonna check for all crossings that were closed. Okay, actually, that was for the consultation model. So our consolidation model, we've taken a reference here and we've said, for all crossings that are closed after that year, we're just gonna assume that it's because it's been realized that it's redundant. Okay, again, there is no solid reason or justification behind that because they don't record it. The database do not record why they do have closures. Now, for the redundancy bit, it came about because FRA believes that not all crossings are really useful. Okay, so again, it depends on their criteria of what they mean by not being useful, and it could be a number of factors. So for our consolidation model, for instance, we are looking at a number of factors. We're looking at, I mean, Samira can tell you some of it. We're looking at safety. We're looking at
safety, proximity to the other intersection of roadways, and also proximity to another railway, highway rail crossing.
So we're looking at, and as well as economic conditions as well. So we're looking at safety, economic conditions, how operational it can be, traffic flow, volumes, operational. So we're looking at
history and different things.
Exactly. So, but for now, like I said, the database do not tell you exactly why it's closed. For what we did, the questions were quite straightforward to the agencies. We wanted to ask first if there was a problem, a safety problem, and if there was a safety problem, what they would use or what they would suggest to motivate, voluntary closures. So for the survey, it was quite specific to safety.
What you're saying is that these closures weren't well documented why they were closed, and so you're trying to identify the factors in your model to close them smartly. For those closures that happened, again, which seems like a lot of them,
Yep.
What was the incentive program there? Were they forced to do that by regulations? Did they give money when they did the closures, or?
For now, no, it wasn't like that. For the closures that have happened so far, they tell you. So this is part of why we did this. They tell you it's a number of incentives they use. Cash incentive is one of them. Track relocation is another, where they promise that, we will, close this, but we relocate to the track elsewhere. Programs where they would offer to close it and then do some improvement for the road facility there. There are a number of incentives that they use. So part of the survey was to find out from the different states what has worked well for them to result in all these closures. And what we realized was that the cash incentive, even though it's popular, which is what most states go to, it hasn't been as effective as the track relocation program. So the track relocation program is very expensive, but in their view, they find that's been more effective. Now, they were not able to tell us, we've closed this number of closures due to this particular measure, or we've closed this number of whatever due to this particular this other measure. They could not give us that data. So what we did here was really just a simple analysis to check from, we compounded all the states. This slide tells you exactly how they reported it. That these are so for track relocation, for instance, this is the most effective. Right now, they don't tell us how many crossings they were able to close with that. Part of what we did here was to look at this percentage, and then we're going to actually we grouped the states that we know from their response, what they said they did offer. Okay, and then we looked at the proportion of closed grade crossings that they have. What does it see if we can get some sort of correlation directly actually corresponds to that? So we're looking at, we grouped them, all those states which had no incentives. We looked at the proportion of closed crossings that they've got, and for instance, they had 35.4%. So that tells you that, right, they have no incentive, and even though they've got 35%, that's the lowest. Now, for those who did cash incentive only, they have 39% of their crossings closed. So this is not reporting on what they've told us. This is we doing our own analysis based on, and then looking at the percentage of crossings in each, or as an average of all those states, and then seeing if we can establish some trend. So the trend that we got from that is, no incentive at all resulted in the least amount of closures. And of course, the track relocation, which is what they, recommend, had the most, percentage of. So if we go by this, we can say that maybe that is what has caused all these closures. But that's just, I guess we cannot prove that. This is sort of just a correlation that we try to establish.
Sounds good. It seems like a little bit of a maybe disorganized program, a little bit.
That's very. So, when you talk to them, it looks like, people reckon that the federal highways give some cash amount, which is not really enough because it costs a lot for, for people to actually accept it. It's the community accepting it. That's the problem. And I can see, what will happen if you're going to close a roadway, to say you're blocking an access, then obviously people are going to be disgruntled, even if you're going to offer, diversionary or whatever means just to close a crossing. There should be a community cohesion there, acceptance there, and usually the state spends a lot much more than the cash incentive that is offered to them. So that's part of why this project actually got born. Louisiana wanted to know what's out there, what are people doing. Even though I don't think it was quite evident in this, we came up with we are actually investigating 3 other measures which can be used to encourage closures. One is crime rate, one is noise reduction, and then what's the last one?
Greenness.
Improving greenness of an area. So all of this is to do with the well-being of a community. And we think that, adding those as well as, a combination of the cash incentives may appeal to the community. So that's something that we're still working on as part of the consolidation model.
That sounds good. Thank you again for presenting.
Thank you, Chris. I do appreciate it.
Yep.
Thank you, Samira.
Thank you.